tuned in to the Indie LA experience.
So, Aaron, have you ever had a moment in a show where you've sort of dropped the ball, like if you will, or have had like a cast member or somebody help pick you up or get you to that next point in the show?
I've definitely jumped into some understudy situations before, filling in for people who maybe were like hurt or things. But there was one time, working on cruise ships.
Okay.
Sometimes it can get a little rocky, and we're on skates on ice. So obviously, if the ship is listing one way or the other, you kind of like you glide.
Yeah,
right?
You guys are the first to feel it.
Yeah, and there was one show. We were in Australia in the winter season. In the finale of the show, we had these big like window glass kind of prop cards, and it was really rocky, that show, and we're supposed to bring these things out and kind of set them up in this configuration, and then we all had these little solo parts that went around, but it was so rocky that the cards wouldn't stay still, so basically I just stood in the middle and held them on the spot.
Oh wow.
So then my skating partner, had to kind of do a solo, and everyone else kind of did their thing. And I just kind of awkwardly stood in the middle, holding these things so that no one would get their head taken off.
Wow.
Yeah. What about you? Have you had a moment like that?
Yeah. Well, several, but I've kind of
several.
I've kind of just gotten by with, sometimes it'll be like a gig where there's a horn line or something that I'm not familiar with, or a solo maybe I don't feel comfortable with. I pass it on to like somebody else. But typically, I do play an instrument like the saxophone that's often like a background instrument. If the horn line isn't prominent or something like that, then you can kind of get away with like doing your own thing or creating something on the spot.
Okay.
Especially if you're playing with especially if you're playing on your own, you can get away with.
No one knows what you're.
Yeah,
playing.
Exactly. No one's quite paying attention as long as you sound good and you're playing in the pocket, playing with the band. But when you are playing with other musicians, like other horn players, say for example, and there's a track that is very horn heavy, or the horns sort of help define the track.
Okay.
Then you got to be on your A game. So yeah, I have had an instance where I was on a wedding gig and they called Sir Duke, right? Stevie Wonder, and that's a very horn heavy song. It starts with horns. There's horns in the verse, horn hits. There's a whole horn soli, like a section that's like a shout out for, and Stevie yells blow, right? And
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's a huge, you need the horns for that song.
It kind of leads the song.
Absolutely. It drives the whole track. And for that particular gig, I don't know what happened. I just lost it under my fingers and was not sure. Like the band leader called the track, and
they're like, Marcus, blow.
No. Well, he called the track, and I was like, oh man, like I don't know that one. And the trumpet player, next to me, he's like, oh, I know it. And I was like, okay, well, you're gonna have to play it. And he's like, well, I'm not sure if I know it as well on trumpet as I do on sax.
Oh,
and
really?
I'm like, what? Like this guy plays both? And I was like, oh well, man, if I got an extra mouthpiece, you can jump on the track. I went and grabbed my mouthpiece really quick, set it up. I had a new reed, and this guy played on my horn like tremendously. I was like, he's just like standing next to me playing trumpet, and I was like, and he's also
just took over your instrument,
just ripping on my horn, and my horn isn't like a saxophone. If you know it, you can play it, but it's not a easy horn to just like jump on. It was like it's an old horn.
Mm-hmm.
The key work on it, takes some getting used to for most people, but this guy just hit it, and I'm like, wow, okay, I got to get on this level. I got to really know my stuff. So
and what did you do?
I was just clapping.
Yeah.
I stood there clapping and just
doing a little step.
Yeah,
touch.
I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna 2-step and clap on the 2s and 4s. Like,
nice.
If I had a little tambourine, I probably would have threw some of that in there. But in this player I'm talking about, he also happens to be our next featured guest.
Everybody has value. Whether or not you're stepping into a situation where others can see that is on them. It's not on you.
All right, today we have in the studio with us music producer and musician Jesse McGinty. Jesse, thanks for being on the show with us.
Oh man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we want to start with how your musical journey began.
Well, my parents are musicians. Pops is a drummer, and my mom's like a early childhood music teacher. And I was basically in her classes from when I was a little baby until I started school, I guess.
Okay.
And now my daughter is doing the same thing with my wife. My wife also does early childhood music, and so I see that similarity in my upbringing and my daughter's,
Okay.
But yeah, so my parents both being musicians, right from the beginning, they were taking me to concerts and like seeing all the different music around Buffalo. Buffalo, New York is where I grew up, And so for Christmas, when I was 6, right, my mom said I could pick any instrument I wanted to play, and I would get lessons with the person that I saw playing it. So she took me to, jazz concerts. She took me to the Philharmonic. She took me to, just all the different performances,
Yeah.
And I saw this guy playing the saxophone, a Jamaican dude.
Okay.
Yeah, old Jamaican guy, and he always used to say like, I played on 43 cruise ships and 5 river boats. And,
Yeah. All right.
This whole like bit that he did. But so I saw him playing at the library and playing jazz, playing flute and alto sax.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was like, that's my guy.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to take lessons with that guy. So it was genius what my mom did, because it got me excited about doing it. It got me to, like, with kids, the most important thing you can do is have them feel like they're the one making the choice to do the thing, And so for her to give me that choice and to give me the excitement of seeing the person that inspires me, and then getting to take lessons or work with that person, that was a really great thing. So for Christmas, she got me a saxophone. She got me lessons with that guy. His name was Carol McLaughlin.
That's really cool.
He still teaches in Buffalo.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's old now, but great teacher. Yeah. So that's how I started. And then my mom's good friend, her name was Sue Teller. She's a trumpet player, and she was like really close to the family. So I wanted to play trumpet too, and so I was playing sax from when I was 6, and then in school they start you on an instrument. So I started trumpet in school. So I always played sax outside of school, started trumpet in school.
Gotcha.
And then all the way through all my schooling, elementary, middle, and high school, I did trumpet at school, but saxophone was outside of school. So I got the music education early.
Yeah.
Which I can't say enough good things about, but I would also say that everybody comes to music in a different way, and there's no right way to do it. So, but that's how I started.
Okay.
Would you say there was one aspect of that early music education? I mean, you said you started sax at 6. So in those pre-years, was there something that you remember that stands out to you?
In terms of what inspired me?
Sparking the interest?
Yeah. I would say, my dad playing all these records, like, all these old jazz records for me. And it was really the people that inspired me. Seeing this guy play.
The live
performance, which is what it's what I spent my life working on and what I gravitate towards still, to some degree. But yeah, I would say the people inspired me, and then also hearing all those old records and really relating to that music, that jazz, that old jazz, the horns, and since my parents were musicians, that's what I was around all the time, so it's just having music in the house, seeing my dad play the piano, the drums, he's a drummer.
Okay.
And so, yeah, just seeing people do it and making it a reality rather than just something that you don't understand anything about, is super important. Like with my kids, when they see me doing something, that's how they know that they can do it too. It's
I guess you're just seeing it being done by the people that you're looking up to.
yeah,
and with the people you relate with, and
yeah, totally. And it makes it a reality for you, And so that's what I would say is it was just around me all the time, and that's what sparked my interest. And I just gravitated towards it as a young person. I don't even know necessarily why. That's a whole other question, right?
Yeah.
Like, why is it that we gravitate towards certain things? It just aligns with us in some way, But yeah, that's what I would say about that.
Yeah, I can say that that when I was younger, I heard this record of Train playing the soprano, and that was the first time that I heard that instrument, and it sparked such an interest that I knew I wanted to like play that myself as well. So do you have like a record or like a moment, or I know you're saying that you're surrounded by music, it was always in the house, but do you have like that one instance that you maybe heard the trumpet, you heard the saxophone, and you knew that was what you wanted to choose to do?
I mean, the saxophone, again, Train was my guy when I was growing up too, I think the first record I ever got was Giant Steps, but
That's cool.
yeah, it's my dad, and the trumpet, I saw that what I called Aunt Sue, playing the trumpet. So I really like that, But I don't know. I was just excited about it when I started doing it. Again, I saw that guy playing it, and I went to the Philharmonic as a 4-year-old or 5-year-old or something. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
And then I went to see this guy playing the sax at the library. I was like, yeah, like that is that is cool, And I also remember being in middle school. We have those teachers that teach like I don't know what they call the class, but it's like what you're gonna do when you grow up, like how to
career development.
Yeah,
kind
career
of thing.
development, like
Yeah.
how to be organized and stuff like that. You gotta learn how to make a resume, all that type of stuff. And I remember her saying people change careers 8 times on average
Interesting.
in their lives. And I was sitting there as like a 7th grader or something. I'm like, I'm never going to change.
Yeah,
I
not
already
me.
know what I'm going to be doing. I'm 100% committed to, at that point already, I was 100% committed to doing music full time in my life.
Yeah.
Even at that point, every day I would be playing music, playing in the orchestras, playing in the jazz bands. I'd go downtown, play with the old guys in the jazz band, do it in school in every marching band, orchestra, jazz band, the concert band, all of it. I was doing all of it every day, And so, when you commit to something like that, there's no question, And I think everybody can relate to that who really chooses a path early, that when you 100% commit, things just happen, and you're just kind of propelled by that momentum.
It becomes part of your life.
Yeah, it just is what your life. It becomes what your life is. It doesn't define you, but it's what, again, pushes your life forward. It's the path that you choose.
Well, I can recall as a early musician getting into festivals and playing for like concerts. I would always try to play some sort of solo for like the concerts that we had. I think that I just found something that I really liked that I wanted to practice at, and I happened to be good at it. I was like always first chair, and doing these different events. I guess, do you have any like growing up, like things that you were like getting involved in? Like, tell me about your story from middle school, how you went to like through high school into studying it.
I mean, I'm a little bit of an outlier in music because I started to want to play all the different instruments, but wind instruments, right? Like a lot of kids will be, I want to play guitar. Oh, I want to play drums too. Oh, I want to play the bass. I had to sing. I wasn't doing any of those things. So I played the sax, and I played the flute, and I played the trumpet, and then, I played the clarinet, and then I picked up the other saxophones, and then, eventually I played the trombone, and all the wind instruments I was drawn to, and I played the piano and all through and stuff like that, but
no big deal.
I mean, that's
That was only like what, 6, 7 instruments right there.
But I was just doing it for myself, and then, and I don't know, I felt like putting the time into it really would make it something that was what made my life possible. But yeah, I mean, I went to jazz camp as a high school student, like one of these kind of like audition based camps, which was really good to and like going to the all-state jazz, being in that ensemble and stuff like that. Those are important things. And even in middle school and elementary school, like the area, the county bands and stuff like that.
Right.
All that is really important for the kids, and for me too, to be around other people who are really committed to doing it well and doing it
A little bit of that competitive environment.
Yeah, competitive, but also the thing that people are doing with their lives as a young person. They're committed to it. They're really practicing every day and want to do it. Being around other people like that really is important. Yeah, I mean, I would say those things, and then I was even doing performances even as a young person. And that's that guy Carol, who I ended up taking lessons with. He was always putting me in little, play with his big band and little gigs around town and stuff like that, and so it was already a real thing for me even as a young person. But going to a festival, I don't know, I guess I went to some jazz stuff, but not like, I never really like went to a bunch of concerts and stuff like that. That was never what it was about for me. It was really about falling in love with the practice of the music and exploring what I could do with it and how I could be better. And it taught me everything I know too, about life. When you find something that teaches you and gives you purpose and makes you feel better about every day that you live, you do that. You do that every day, It's not just about you want to do it as a career, In fact, that was the last thing on the mind the whole time. It wasn't like, oh, how am I going to make money with this? It was at a certain point, it was like, oh, well, I'm at this point. Okay, now I have to make money with it, right? But it's really about the everyday learning process of it, and that never ends, and that teaches you how to live your life. All the other aspects of my life come from my practice of learning music and playing music with people, and I think music is a kind of a magic thing to be in touch with.
Yeah, to experience and to share.
To experience and to share, and it's something that some people will say other things are, whatever it is that you work at, but I think music is a little bit different in the fact that it's nothing, it's not, it's in the moment and it's gone. And you can't see it, you can't touch it.
It's not like a tangible thing that you can hold.
Thing, right? And it moves people, and it moves air, and it is understandable by everyone. And so there's just a lot of learning that went into being a musician. And a true musician, it's a life. It's a lifestyle. It's the full life. It's not, oh, I got good at this, now I can do it. It's every day for your entire life, a constant process, And so even as a young person, I just felt like enamored with it, just an explorative process
Yeah.
every day with it,
Cool.
Well,
Yeah.
this is maybe jumping ahead a little bit, but
Mhm.
you're a musician, and it's very much who you are and what you do. And like you
Mhm.
said, it wasn't about how can I make a career out of this,
Mm-hmm.
but inevitably it does become your life, your career.
Right.
How do you balance kind of that love for just the music and the lifestyle when it does come time to eventually you do start making money and have to make money from things?
Right. So I think a lot of people in our industry, musicians, have a lot of damage and problems from what you just said.
Mhm.
Just that balance, because you kind of have to navigate what you do creatively, what you do for love, the competition,
Mhm.
the comparing yourself to other people, and what you do for a living gets wrapped up in all that stuff. And some people are better at it than others, but everybody has to deal with the fact that what you loved and what you worked your whole life at is unfortunately looked at by somebody who is gonna say you're better than this person and you're worth this much.
Sure, somebody's going to put a price tag
Somebody's gonna put a price
on what
tag
you
on.
do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so that's a really tough thing to navigate for all of us,
Mhm.
and in any job, any career, it's the same thing, but it's particularly strange, I think, in music and other arts,
Sure.
you know.
We also have such a wide range of artists, as far as, financial, somebody like Taylor Swift who just became a billionaire,
Yeah.
Versus people that are, full-time musicians playing local gigs and things.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I mean, the nice thing about music is there's always a place to make money.
Mhm.
Like, writers have it a lot tougher than musicians do, because a writer has got to be on something that's consistently paying them. Musicians, there's little stuff to do, there's mixing, there's producing little stuff, music for things, there's little gigs at the bar, there's wedding gigs, there's tours, there's a ton of stuff. You can always work, you can go out on the street and make some money and play music, so in that regard, we are fortunate that there's
It's kind of diverse.
it's
that way.
kind of, yeah, you can figure out a way to get some money with music. But the comparing thing and the seeing, the social media is like a huge problem for everybody. But in music, it's like, I don't know, there's this whole behind the scenes of, like, especially in the instrumentalist world or the background singer world or whatever, there's people like, you look at it and you're like, oh man, because there's not a ton of jobs like that, it's like,
Mhm.
you look and you see somebody doing it and you're like, oh man, how do I get on that? And then you start doubting yourself, like, that self-doubt comes in a lot of times on when it's work or when you're playing, because everything's so diverse, but then somebody looks at somebody else as they get praise and you don't, and then you start to feel like, well, all this work that I did, is this marketable, or is this something that people will want to hire me for, and so I think those feelings, you have to kind of breathe through those and move through those. But a lot of people I've seen, I mean, it's myself too. I feel like I'm at a good place navigating all that stuff, but it's a very difficult process
Mhm.
to get through all that, and to get to a place where you're confident in what
you're doing.
what you do. Yeah. And also stepping into roles that, because you always have to say yes to things that you're not completely comfortable with. You never know exactly what you're stepping into.
You always want to push yourself and
you want to push yourself, but
create opportunities.
Totally. But also people call you and you don't know exactly what you're getting into. You know, like a session, like going to play on somebody's session, you don't know what it's going to be once you get there, really. And so you can just be as prepared as you can from your whole life. Like that, you can't, oh, I have a session, let me practice something like today. It doesn't work like that, you know? So that's when that self-doubt kind of comes in, when you step into one of those situations and it's not exactly in your wheelhouse, you know? And those things have lasting impacts on some people, but you really got to let it go, you know? But it's a weird thing sometimes, you know, that whole process of like separating all the things, the job, the life, the creative, you know, it's
not easy.
It's not easy. And that's across the board for everybody, but it's so personal with music, you know. It's like your passion, and you know, and with any arts, right?
Yeah. Well, going to those gig calls, I know you've experienced this as well, I'm sure, but a lot of times it's availability first, right?
Yeah.
They'll ask you like, hey, you available this date? You know, you can, you say yes or no, you say yes, and then you get the just information like little by little, but like you said, you don't know what you're going into. You don't know, maybe sometimes you don't even know like the pay, because people aren't like, you know, actively like putting all of that information out first. I can recall getting called for a gig and having the availability and seeing who else was going to be on the gig and kind of getting an outline. Like, all right, we're playing with this artist who is up and coming pop singer. It's a full band, and I'm seeing some of the other band members, and here's where that self-doubt came in. I saw like the names of people and kind of like, oh, well, that's so-and-so, that's you know, that's my buddy's friend, or you know, and I'm seeing like this lineup of musicians, and I'm like, man, I can't like play with these guys. I get on the gig and we're just miming on stage to this music video. It wasn't we weren't even playing.
Okay.
And so I was like getting in my head of like what this gig was going to be, and like, you know, and like you said, I had to just, you know, well, everything that I've prepared up until this point, this is what this is going to be for this event. And it turned out that we were just playing along. Like,
just do it. Like,
yeah.
The other thing about music is, man, nobody's getting hurt.
Right.
Like the stakes are low.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Honestly. And like, just go do it. And if you fold and you fail and you sound terrible, like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It does not matter. Right. And we put a lot of emphasis on how others look at us and how others think about us. But the reality is it's not gonna hurt you. It's not gonna, you know, maybe they won't call you for another gig, but there's plenty of gigs. You can do anything. Like, just do it. Step into whatever it is. Take the chance, you know, and
either way you're going to learn from it.
Yeah, use it as a learning experience.
Yeah, use it as a learning experience. Yeah, and, you know, value what you bring to the table. Like, everybody has value. Whether or not you're stepping into a situation where others can see that is on them. It's not on you.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know, there's a lot of vibes that go on in all sorts of careers, but also in music, you know, where people don't necessarily see your value, you know, because it makes their job harder sometimes, right? And they don't want to do the work. They just want to make it a little easier. And of course, you know, there's situations that certain people can't step into, you know, obviously. But if you're being called for something, there's a reason.
Yeah.
You know, somebody is calling you because they think you can do the job, or they think you can bring something to the table. So go do it. And if if it's not the right fit, it's not the right fit. It's not the end of the world,
Yeah. Cool. So
yeah, man.
you talked about how a musician's career was a little bit more lucrative, or there was other opportunities than, like, say, like a writer.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of those opportunities for you, and do you have like some favorites? Do you have some that you lean towards more than others?
Yeah, I mean, I do like playing live music, but there isn't really an end game with that. You're just going to do it your whole life.
Sure.
And we all know those people, and I think that recording music and investing in yourself and doing something that can pay you continually and pay you later, so you make more of your time, rather than just you go play a gig. The only thing you're going to get the money, and when you leave there, the only thing that could happen is you have to invest more time to another gig to get more money.
Sure.
Right? When you record music, something could happen with that music. It could end up on a commercial. It could end up somebody really likes it and they put it on their record. It could end up that people love that song and the song does well.
Mm-hmm.
There's places to put music all over the place. So I think recording music is a much better. I mean, it's not better. It's just a bet. It's a bet that could repay you. And I enjoy being creative and putting things down more sometimes than just going and playing the same thing or whatever. From playing jazz, like, that's different, But a lot of the gigs that pay money, you're going to do a job, You're playing the same songs, whatever it is, whatever artist you're playing with, or whatever, unless you're the artist, but whatever artist you're playing with or whatever covers you're doing, you're just going to do the job, right? And we work hard to be good at that, but it's not exactly creative. So I would say the studio is a more worthwhile investment if you can make it work, if you know how to make money there, or if you know how to
create more opportunities for yourself.
Yeah, you have to
for potential residual,
and also better time to money return.
Got you.
Sometimes. So yeah, it depends, but I do like being in the studio more than playing a gig a lot of times.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's also your own space,
Yeah.
When you go out and play a gig, there's you got to deal with a lot of people a lot of times,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to drive there or fly there, and you got to, and it's great. Don't get me wrong, but now I've been doing this for a longer amount of time. Half my life I've been doing the job stuff, and it's like, yeah, I kind of like being in my own space, being creative, and stuff
Okay.
like that. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, what are some of those session stories? Do you have any that stand out, like some of your favorites, or or maybe there's something that didn't go like the way that you wanted it to?
Well, what I was talking about before, the fact that you're stepping into something that you don't know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's a lot of times in the studio.
Okay.
And so you get there and they're like, yeah, I want horns on this. It's like, okay. And then they're like, yeah, like, just play some sax, and we've all been there.
Yeah. Just play
like,
some sax.
I don't even know, like, and so it could be any type of music, and they could be listening to something that's not even horns and want horns, and so you got to just, it's almost like a filter. You're like a filter. It's like they're like speaking another language,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to figure out what they want.
Yeah.
Or they don't know what they want, and you got to throw stuff at the wall until something sticks, and they're like, oh, you know what, that reminds me of this other thing, and then at least there's some type of direction there.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it just is so wide. The what happens at sessions and at the studio, it can be so different from one day to the next, but interesting stories, I guess. I kind of do it every day, so it's
Okay.
like what stands out, I do like being in my own space. I like having people over at my studio
Okay.
rather than going to somebody else's space a lot of times,
Where you don't know what to expect.
Yeah, and like you don't know what exact vibe you're stepping into sometimes. And occasionally too, you'll be called to one of these sessions at a studio, and it won't be. You'll have to wait. You'll have to sit there all day. It's a thing that happens too. But I don't know, man. I'm just I like doing it. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've done, a number of shows, a number of live performances. Do you have any artists, like favorite artists that you like to play with? And also I want to get into touring too, if you've done any of that.
Yeah, I guess at this point, most of the pop or TV stuff, most of the artist gigs that I do, it's very removed, it's like working for a company,
Okay.
yeah. And the tours that I've done, the smaller tours are more personal, but yeah, the bigger tours, it's really working for a company, and there's a lot of people involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of planning and traveling and just a lot of people and
Moving pieces.
and it's good to be on something like that because it's consistent and what you're gonna get paid, and it pays better than a lot of other music jobs.
Okay.
But it doesn't really excite me other than having steady money. And I mean, having the family, it excites me because I know I can provide for my family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Get you.
Yeah. So that doesn't really do it for me these days. But I would say and I think that the family changed that for me. I was trying
not to be around touring, you mean?
No, just feeling everything I was doing for me, I'm on this cool gig or whatever, that whole vibe changed when I had my girls, when I had the kids. And now it's more I want to be in my own space. Whatever I'm doing as my job, which is music, is to provide for our life. It's not, I mean, yeah, you want to do things that are cool, I guess, but it's really about what's the environment. Is the environment a good environment? Is the pay right for the time? How much time away from the house or out of LA is this going to cost me? These are the important things now. It's not what's the coolest person I'm playing with.
Yeah.
Because the things that are the most fun and the most rewarding to me aren't those things. It's more when I feel real creative in the studio, or if I'm playing a good little jazz gig with somebody who's a great player in town, and those are the things that really those are the things that I get excited about and make me feel good about what I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, of course we got to make a living, and those are usually the best ways to make a living in music.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to diversify everything. You have to do everything. That's not enough. If you're doing, I know some people who get on a tour and then they leave everything else, and since they don't have other things happening once that tour ends, which it's gonna at any time, by the way, it can just drop out from underneath you at any time. There's no job security. Once that happens, then they're scrambling to have something going on. So it's important to not put all your eggs in one basket like that, and to think that it's reliable, because it's really not, and so diversify. That's so important. Have tons of little things happening all the time, and I try to be conscious of that every week, sessions, little gigs, wedding gigs, the touring thing, doing podcasts, doing sound for things, doing little productions for little things, working on artist productions, all that. Gotta, because those calls, they better be coming,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how did you navigate, or how did you start to collect like all these calls? Did opportunities come, one by one from another?
Yeah, it's one from another,
Okay.
because I'm not on social media either. And so it's literally being out there doing it and meeting people, and you got to talk yourself up a little bit, which is not always the greatest
or easiest thing to do for a lot of people.
Yeah, don't love doing it, you know what I mean? But you got to do it in order to work. You got to do it to survive. I guess when I moved to LA, I had a few things, a few people who were connected here, and so I guess I leaned heavily on that. And then whenever I met somebody, it's like you just got to follow up with people, and when you don't have work, you got to be honest, and like I'll call somebody up, be like, hey, I haven't been working much. Anybody who's looking for anything within my skill set, and yeah, you just got to stay on top of it, so yeah, it was one by one, whoever you meet, obviously you have to back up what you say.
Yeah.
You have to stand up to your word, and you got to stay in touch with people. But yeah, it comes from meeting one person, and then that person knows somebody, and they're like, oh, you play horns, or you do production, or whatever it is. They're like, oh, I have this buddy, and then you're like, oh, well, let me get that number, and hit up that person, tell him if you ever need something, or like for me, I have a studio, come over to my studio, check out what I do, and then yeah, it's just, sometimes people also say, oh, Jesse does this, and then somebody calls me, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's basically all that, it's pretty much just word of mouth.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how it's always been. Like when I first started though, in college, you have that whole community of the
within
kids
the school.
within the school, and that's a way that you get started. Obviously, that's pretty much how, at least in my circle, how a lot of the musicians get started is their college community, and everybody kind of rises together.
Gotcha.
And I still work with a bunch of people from college, even though I'm in LA.
That's cool.
Still rocking with those same people, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The day ones.
Yeah, totally.
Well, you grew up in Buffalo and you went to school on the East Coast. Is that correct?
Yeah, I went to the University of Miami.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
And I guess tell me about your transition from there to LA. Like, why'd you make that switch?
That was for my wife.
Okay.
Yeah. I really didn't want to leave. I was working in Miami. I was there for 10 years, so I was pretty settled into the scene there. And it's not as, there's a ceiling there, I would say. There's not a lot of
as far as opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, the industry isn't really there. you know. You can do well there. I was doing like reggae stuff, and you know, there's a lot of corporate work there, a lot of jazz stuff happening there. Some like South American artists and island artists and stuff like that. But so my wife was on a gig. She's a singer.
Okay.
And so she moved out here for her gig. Or well, she wanted to move out here for her gig. And it was kind of like she kind of needed to, you know. And so she was just a lot back and forth. And I was coming out here a lot with her. And at a certain point, it just made sense
to make the move.
And it was definitely the best move for me also, you know. But I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't had stuff set up and if I didn't have people here. So it made sense, but it was really for her, you know.
Got you. But you made sure that you were prepared.
Oh yeah, totally. But it wasn't starting over, but it was, in some ways it was starting over.
Mm-hmm.
But I had work right when I got here, you know. Otherwise I wouldn't have wanted to do it.
Yeah.
But there was definitely some anxiety about, like, okay, I'm going to a new city. I'm not going to school there. I don't have the type of community that I have in Miami here. But oh man, it was great. Especially those first couple of years of really hustling and being out and starting over. That was such a great growing experience and a great time for me, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, even though there's anxiety with that, it's you got to put yourself on the spot. You always got to put yourself on the spot in the same way that you step into something that's not exactly comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Go to a new city. You're going to grow. You're going to learn new things, you know. Stay moving, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said that you're not on social media, and earlier you talked about social media being a problem for some musicians and artists.
Yeah.
Can you give me your perspective on that?
Yeah, totally. So I had Instagram and a Facebook for basically, I got it when I moved to LA because I figured I need it, right?
Okay.
And then when my first daughter was born, which was 3 years later, I got rid of it. And I didn't like what it was doing to me in terms of that comparison, you know. You see, and it's not real what you're seeing there either.
Right.
You're seeing a snippet of what somebody wants you to see. And so, you know, I talk about it with people that you know, somebody will say something like, "Oh man, like I just saw that this dude's on this gig that I was doing, like, you know, it makes me feel," and it not only does it make them feel bad at that moment, but it stays with them for days because they see this, right? And not only do they see it, but everybody else can see that too, like, you know. So that also is a problem with the thoughts, like everybody knows now, or like you know, there's also the side of people put out music and it doesn't do well on there, and then they're like, what am I doing wrong? And there's this, I don't know exactly how to explain it, but it's like a loop that people get stuck in on those things, you know.
Sure.
And it's just, I don't think money's the root of all evil. I think it's comparison, you know. And yeah, it's just, it preys on the worst parts of us, you know. It really does. And so I just see it being unhealthy for some of my friends who are musicians, you know, because that thing that you were talking about, how it's like, what's the coolest thing you're doing.
Sure.
It's like, well, the coolest thing I'm doing isn't as cool as the coolest thing they're doing. So what do I look like on the internet? You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
It's
Yeah.
like, it's not a healthy place to be.
Yeah.
Like, that's all. It's not real. It's just not real.
Yeah, I get you.
And, you know, having a family puts that into perspective for me. That's what put it in this perspective for me. It's like, none of that matters. Like, dude, it's not even, these people, it's not even real. You don't even know the person. You feel like you know these people. It's not the truth.
Right.
You're not, you don't know anything about these people, you know?
You see the highlights.
Yeah, you see the highlights that aren't even like, they're fabricated.
Right.
Like, it's not real. It's not a real highlight. Like, it looks a certain way.
Right.
You know, that's what that's what TV is. You know, it makes it look real. It's not actually real. You know. So in that same way, I feel like people on social media, you know, you don't really know what's going on there. You know, you don't know what that person's dealing with, what that person's going through, and that's what, you know, when you talk to a person, you can relate to them, and like, you may think something looks really good, but they may not be happy either. So it's like the grass is always greener on the other side, you know? Like, yeah, it looks really cool. Maybe that gig that they're doing is a huge time suck also, and maybe they're not getting paid so well, or like, you don't even know, you know? So like, why are you beating yourself up over it?
Right.
You know? So I don't know. That's what I would say about that. I just don't think it's healthy for people, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about your creative process as a music producer. You said that you've got some stuff that you've been working on this week.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. How do you start from, you know, zero to finish?
Yeah, finishing. That's like the hard part.
Right.
Well, this week, I had a couple of people over and we just played. So it's important to not put too many boundaries on what you're doing, I think, at this point in my life, right? Because once you do that, it's not fun anymore. And that's what we should be doing, first of all, with music. That's why we got into it, because it's amazing and it's fun.
Yeah.
Okay? So in my space, I'm trying to have fun as much as possible. So I got a couple of guys over and we played just free, you know, just play whatever you want, you know, and record it. So drums, bass, and I played some flute, you know. And then we find it, like, we played for 90 minutes, and then you go through and you listen, and you're like, oh, that's not good, oh, that's not, whatever. And then you find this little snippet that's real good, you know, and then you start to build from there, you know, rather than, like, it's so hard to go in and listen to some music, like you listen to a pop song. Okay, let's make something like this, right? That's how a lot of people work. And that's how a lot of commercial music is made, and pop music and stuff like that, right? And that is always going to yield similar results, right? For obvious reasons. So I'm not feeling that that vibe right now. So we go in and we cut up and we start to find little pieces of this raw material that we've created. We've just, you know, just played whatever, you know. And then so you cut it up and you find it, and then you start overdubbing and, you know, playing with it and having fun with it, and something beautiful comes out, you know. And that's not how I always make music, but lately that's how I've been making music. And there was, I guess it was during pandemic, maybe like 2 years ago or something like that. Was that when it was? 3 years ago?
Almost 4 years ago, the start of it, but
yeah. Well, it was
we went through cycles.
It was in the middle. It was in the
here.
middle of
Waves.
it.
Sure.
When I was like, okay, great, we can, like, we're not working too much. We can get together in the studio now. So put all these sessions together, all these bands together, maybe like 10 bands or like 10 10 different like groups of musicians together. And some of them I tried writing charts. Some of them I tried like, you know, playing jazz. Some of them I tried playing like funk music. Had people bring tunes, all kinds of different like vibes and feelings and instrumentation and everything. And then one of them was just bass, drums, and flute, and we played just whatever, and it really clicked. And so that's the project that I've been working on since then for the last couple of years, I guess. And so I've been making music that way a lot. And so yeah, it's just like a really free creative zone, you know, and there's no rules, and there's no like trying to do some specific thing to get it placed on something, or try to get it to this person, or try to make money with it, or anything like that. There's none of that. So it's really, it feels really good to do it, you know.
Yeah.
And the results have been super great and fun, you know. But yeah, always music takes a long time, you know. You gotta sit with it and try to understand what's coming, and, you know, pull things out of the air, you know. Like,
right.
It's not like you can't force anything into it, you know. It's like finding things. It's not really, you know, oh, I'm going to use these chords and I'm going to do this and I'm going to make it sound like this. It's more like, in the best case scenario, it's more like, oh, wow, it feels like, oh, I kind of like hear that. I don't know where that came from, but it just kind of like came to me, you know. Or like you're at the instrument and you're like, oh, wow, like I don't know what that is, but it just came out, you know. And and giving yourself that time and that space to do that is where I'm at right now,
without putting any, like you said, purpose or pressure on it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's about just creating. And
yeah, what a concept, right? Like, I want to make music that I can listen to. Like, how about that?
Yeah.
How about just that? You know, rather than, okay, well, we got to get this to the label, and then, well, they don't really like this because right now they're doing stuff that's like this artist, and so, you know, let's make something like that, like, so that we can make money with that. Like, just cut all that out for at least part of your life, so that you still feel good about doing it. You know.
Sure.
But yeah, so the process right now, it's different every time, I would say. You know.
Okay.
It's more about the people that you get involved with it, you know. And of course there's different people that I work with, but that project is with four of us.
Okay.
You know, and there's a singer involved, and there's a bass player and a drummer, and then we bring in other people as needed, you know. But I'm real excited about that just because of the process.
Yeah.
Really, you know.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
I would love to hear that. Can we pull that up?
Yeah, we can pull that up.
Okay, sweet. Let's take a listen.
Yeah.
clean, dude. Wow, that was a vibe.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard the flute played like in that kind of a way.
Oh yeah.
I like
That's
it.
an alto flute.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a lower flute.
Ooh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
cool.
wondering. I was like, it sounded a lot warmer.
Yeah.
I don't normally like the flute, but I love that.
Dude,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
clean.
Yeah, you
It's
don't like
awesome,
the
man.
flute, huh?
Yeah.
Well, it's not. I wouldn't say it's my favorite instrument,
Okay,
but
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
That's-
I was kidding.
Oh
I'm
man,
kidding.
That was
flute's the best, man. Flute fits in any music basically,
Yeah.
like hip hop, jazz, funk,
Mhm.
like orchestra. Like flute is across the board cool.
Yeah.
Saxophone, no,
Yeah.
not across.
Situational.
Yeah, situational
Sure.
for sure. I mean, flute can be kitschy too, But like, yeah.
Oh, that was clean, man. Thanks for
Thanks,
sharing.
thanks. Yeah.
So, what have you got going on recently? Like, what's some new things that you're working on? Some projects that you're looking forward to?
Oh man, I'm looking forward to spending some time at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
All right.
after last year, after the end of the year, last year was
Busy.
busy, man. I mean that making music like that's what I'm looking forward to. I've been making I work with this guy Blue, also, who we've been making some good music. That's real fun. That's a little bit more in the we're trying to fit into something category,
Sure.
which is still fun, if you're doing it with the right person. Like you have to have somebody who's super creative and good at the things that you're not,
Mhm.
right? It's like being creative within boundaries is also, very
A skill set in
a
some
skill
ways.
set and
Yeah.
can be fun.
Mhm.
A little bit more in the box, but still like try to be weird in some way. And he's good at that. And so I love making music with that guy, really cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So we have a bunch of tunes right now that are going well. But the trophy stuff, that group with the 4 people, is really, I'm really excited about that.
Okay.
And it's similar vibe to what I just played, but with a vocal on top, So yeah, that's been going real well. I'm excited about that.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're looking forward to hearing more, man.
Yeah, totally.
So, where can everybody find all your music?
I mean, you can't right now.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Shit out of luck, people.
Yeah, that's right. The trophy stuff will be out soon. The Blue stuff, occasionally stuff gets put out. And that's BLEU, Blue, if you want to check that stuff out. But a lot of the stuff that I've been making is just, I don't know if it's ready right now,
Okay.
Yeah. But it will be soon. Yeah. So we'll see. Don't have working titles for much yet, except for like Trophy and the Trophy songs, But again, that stuff isn't really out yet. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we know you're always busy, man, and we're looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah,
busy.
keep us posted.
Yeah, totally.
All right, great. Well, Jesse, man, thanks so much for being on the podcast with us, man.
Absolutely.
Pleasure having you.
Yeah, thank you.